With Palestinian deaths soaring in Gaza, more than 8,000 and rising by the hundreds each day, Israel's bombing has wrought a level of destruction described as unprecedented, while, according to UNRWA's leadership, producing a human tragedy that is unbearable.
Nearly 70% of those reported killed are children and women. Save the Children reported yesterday that nearly 3,200 children were killed in Gaza in just 3 weeks. This surpasses the number of children killed annually across the world's conflict zones since 2019. This cannot be collateral damage. Churches, mosques, hospitals, and UNRWA facilities, including those sheltering displaced people, have not been spared. Too many people have been killed and injured while seeking safety in places protected by international humanitarian law. The current siege imposed on Gaza is collective punishment.
He pointed to the streets of Gaza overflowing with sewage, while the blackout over the weekend aggravated panic and distress on the civilian population, a feeling Lazzarini described as abandonment and being cut off from the rest of the world.
The communication blackout has accelerated the breaking down of civil order. Panic pushed thousands of desperate people to head to the UNRWA warehouses and distribution center, where we store the food and other supply we started receiving via Egypt last week. A further breakdown in civil order will make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the largest UN agency in Gaza to continue operating.
UNRWA has lost 64 colleagues since Israel started its bombardments, the highest number of UN aid workers killed in conflict in such a short time. While many of their colleagues now live, sleep and work in UNRWA shelters, along with 670,000 displaced civilians.
Today, Gazans feel that they are not treated as other civilians. Most of them feel trapped in a war they have nothing to do with. They feel the world is equating all of them to Hamas. This is dangerous, and we know this too well from previous conflicts and crises. An entire population is being dehumanized. The atrocities of Hamas do not absolve the state of Israel from its obligation under international humanitarian law. Every war has rules, and this one is no exception.
And as the Council weighs yet another draft resolution on humanitarian pauses and access after 4 failures to date, calls from senior UN leadership for it to find consensus.
I implore the Security Council to immediately adopt a resolution that reminds parties of their obligations under international law, that calls for a ceasefire, that demands the parties allow safe and unimpeded humanitarian access, that demands the immediate and safe release of all abducted children, and that urges parties to afford children the special protection to which they are entitled. The Security Council should prioritize what is now a worsening displacement crisis with more than 1.4 million people in Gaza, the majority of whom are children now displaced.
As the Council negotiates yet another draft, many here argue that the time for action is running out. And the question reverberating in these halls is, if not now, when? Shervin Brycebees, SABC News, New York.